I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today, we're talking with Sarah Leach from the Daily Memphian, so stay with us for a conversation with Sarah. Sarah, I haven't seen you in like minutes out in the hall.
Right down the hallway.
Outside
we almost
studio.
collided.
Sarah handles fundraising and development, and we thought we'd do a show. You were on around this time last year, I think,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And, just talking about why we fundraise for people and a little bit more sort of some things that we're highlighting for the year, and I'll talk a bit about some things, priorities for next year and so on. But like when you get that question, you've been with us a year plus now. Well, wait, I pay a lot of money. It's not a cheap, we charge a lot for our subscription. We think it's a fair rate. What do you say to people when they say, well, wait, why are you fundraising?
Yeah, so your donations are any amount that you contribute above and beyond your subscription rate. Your subscription allows you to access our news anywhere you are with your devices, right? On your laptop, on your cell phone, on your tablet. And when you give donations, it helps to power our mission to reach more folks in the community with news. We do work like podcasts. We're free in schools. We're free in libraries. And all of that work that we do that's not behind the paywall is supported by donations from community members.
The general outline, and Andy Cates, our board chair and co-founder and friend of mine, wrote about it in a column that's on the Daily Memphian site. People can get to it, which was a thing we started to try to do every year, is just have Andy do kind of state of the state, an annual letter as it were. And, we're about a $6 million budget. That's about what we spend every year. About 50% of that is covered by subscriptions, another 20% by advertising and sponsorships that you see on the site, another 5% by just all kinds of weird stuff, which we could get into. And then all of it legal, none of it unethical. It's just a bunch of weird. There's some licensing. There's some money from Google News Showcase that we still don't understand what that means. It's just a bunch of different things. And then 25% of it, give or take, is this fundraising part. And so, what's weird for me, and I talk about it a lot in local nonprofit news, and that's become a very big thing in the country as the traditional media and traditional newspapers have been cutting back. There are many, many nonprofits like us that have launched. Most of them are completely the opposite. They are 80 to 90 to nearly 100% philanthropy. And whether that's foundations and high net worth individuals or memberships or t-shirt sales, it's all really philanthropy is what they're doing. And we always said, we don't want to do that. We want to have as much earned revenue as we can. And I think I can't think of another nonprofit local news site in the country that has a ratio that we have, where it's only, quote unquote, only 25% of our budget, which is still a lot, which is like $1.5 million every year. But only that is raised philanthropically. So that's the part of what I say to people when they ask, like, well, wait, why? Well, and also nobody's volunteering their time. No one's getting rich, but also no one's volunteering their time to do this work. There are almost 40 people in the newsroom now. Another 15 freelancers and contributors on any given week, and another 10 or so people like you, like me, who are more really on the business side, the marketing side, the ad sales side. And so it's just a big operation that to put out 140 stories a week, which is give or take what we do.
Yeah, I actually just pulled stats. We're over 9,000 articles this year, and it's not the end of the year yet.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and
that's a record.
In 2024, we did just shy of 8,000. So we'll see where we end at the end. But our team has really been hustling and productive and covering the news out there. And when you say nobody works for free, one thing that I love to highlight to people is, you might be able to get news for free on the internet from influencers or, people who are quote unquote influencers. But our team is professionals and we pay them because they are professionally trained to report the news in an unbiased and balanced way. They're not going to tell you what to think. They're not going to bring in, their opinions in any way. They're professional and they deserve to be paid.
Yeah. I mean, that has always been a big thing us, that we are this nonpartisan organization that we try, there's no perfect, like platonic ideal of objectivity, but that is kind of what we pursued. And a lot of local news has gone in different direction. A lot of national news has gone in a different direction. That, you have sort of these built-in opinions in your podcasts or in your cable news. I'm not saying there's something necessarily wrong with that. That's fine, as long as people know what they're watching or listening to or reading has an explicit bias or an explicit point of view is the more gentle way to say it. And we've tried to stay away from that. We have lots of opinion. We try to label it very clearly as opinion. That, of course, is, and then we try to have as much of a range of opinions as we want. If people have opinion columns they want to talk about, they can email me at barnes@dailymemphian.com. We take donations. We have some big foundations, the Hyde Foundation, the First Tennessee First Horizon Foundation has supported us. S6E Foundation has supported us in past years. Briggs Foundation, Crawford Howard Foundation. I think that's all. Hopefully I didn't miss any of the big foundations. And then individuals at all kinds of ranges. And you and I were talking yesterday, we have people who do a recurring $5 a month donation, which actually makes me beyond happy every time. Or we have people who write checks. So some people listening are like, write a check. I don't know where my checks are. They send checks in, and it's for $50, and it's amazing that people do that. And that's been a big thing I think this year. The sheer number of people, regardless of the sum, the number of people who donate has gone up pretty significantly.
Yes, and that was one of my primary goals when I came in, among many, was to increase our donor base. We have a really strong, loyal subscriber base. We have a great number of followers across social media and all those things. But folks donating every year, I would like to grow that number, because that means it's people that see the value in our product. They subscribe often themselves, and they want to help us reach more people. Yes, $5 one-time donations, $5 monthly donations, all the way up to, the 5-figure, 6-figure gifts. Yeah. They all make a difference, and they're all a piece of the puzzle of getting to that 1.5 million.
The other thing we did this year, and again, I remind everyone, I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and this is the sidebar. I think it's airing on Christmas Day, right? Is that right, Natalie? Looking at Natalie Van Gundy, producer. So Merry Christmas out there. I should have said that at the beginning to people, or if you're listening to it later, I hope you had a great Christmas, great Hanukkah, great holiday, and an upcoming great New Year. But we're here with Sarah Leach, who's our development director, handles all the fundraising. Another thing we did this past year that was part of expanding the number of people donating and just telling the story was a lot more events. And sometimes none of them particularly fancy. I mean, we had a little open house here at the new office that we're in. We had a thing at the library, the main library. We were at a bar in Midtown. We were at a restaurant bar out in Germantown. And it's been great.
Yeah, it's been a real highlight of my year.
Yeah, right? I mean, because we live in such an online world. We're an online publication. I get emails from people, all the staff. You do too. Or you get social media posts, or you get referenced in a comment, or I do. And all that's fine. All that's good. All that's great. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's less great. But it's all great, and it's feedback. And we really do read all that and look at it and think about it. But to be in person with people who have questions about why we do what we do, concerns about it, the praise is great, but the other parts are really good too. The question.
Yes, having a dialogue with folks who might not otherwise ask a question. We can't assume today that everyone understands journalism. Frankly, there are people that didn't grow up with newspapers in their houses. There are people that didn't grow up listening, to the radio, to the news on the radio, to news on television. And there are people today that even if their family did pay attention to the news, it seems like in the age of social media, we've maybe forgotten about what is the point of journalism and what are sort of the rules of journalism. And so for us to be able to get out there and connect with people, either to educate them or people who get it, who are really hungry to, maybe they read our reporters every day and they want to connect with them and see them and ask them a question about a specific story or about how they do their work. They have been really rewarding events. So I know that we will continue those next year. We've done events. We had a roundtable series. We did 2 this past year, one with our Metro team, talking about local government, XAI, schools, all kinds of stuff that they wrote about, public safety. That one was really neat. And then we did another one that was sort of a completely different direction and also wonderful, focused on arts and culture and food and some of the great things that are really celebrated about our city. And those events were putting our reporters in front of an audience and cultivating new donors. We had some donors, come back who've already had a relationship with us and engaged with us in person, but we also connected with new people that you and I and our team maybe have never met in person. And so that was really fun. And then we've also experimented a little bit this year with doing in-person events specifically for our donor base, people who have had a really closer relationship and investment, a financial investment in the Daily Memphian, since the beginning or for a couple years now. And so I know that next year we will continue to build those out. We want to meet people in person. And I think it strengthens our readers' relationship with us, which in a fundraising perspective is always great, right? We want to keep our fans close and make them feel that they are heard and that it's a two-way street, really. We are in a relationship together. This is our community and our newspaper together. But also it's great for our reporters, I think, and our team. You are a journalist as well as a CEO, Eric, and I would assume that for you guys, and I've heard from our team, that it's really rewarding to get out there and connect with the readers because, they're talking to their sources, but then otherwise they're writing and they don't really get feedback other than in the comments section. So having that dialogue with folks helps them stay really engaged in why they do what they do.
Yeah. No, it was great. I mean, and actually, we should say for people who generally the events have been around people who've donated. So if people are donors, you go to dailymemphian.com/donate and you can donate any amount. But also, if you're just interested in learning more about the events, email Sarah. It's Leach, Leach, at dailymemphian.com. Or you can email me too, barnes@dailymemphian.com. And we'll get you on the list to be invited as we go through that schedule of events this next year. That's in addition to, we've always done these business seminars. We do about 4 of them. We just did our commercial real estate seminar. We've got our women in business seminar coming up February 26th. So people should mark their calendars for that. But again, that real world thing, especially, it's also coming off COVID, you come off that. And I think because of the TV show and because my photo is on a lot of messaging that goes out for us, people tend to recognize me a bit and they'll, come up and say hi. Yeah, and I don't know about that. But they'll it's very nice. I mean, it's super nice. But other people don't necessarily recognize Laura Testino, who writes amazing, metro coverage for us, or Sophia Surratt, who does all this business coverage around food and around retail and so on. So those have been the most satisfying things. The people who, their photos on the article, but people haven't met them, people don't know them, and just the feedback. And the feedback that's negative is really helpful for us, especially when it's in person. Because then you can have this conversation versus I always say the story of people who get angry about a story or something we've done, and they'll send me an angry email. And I respond to 99% of the emails I get, which can be a lot in a given week or very few. And I will kind of say, well, I hear you, appreciate it, glad you're reading, but here's why we do what we do, and here's we're going to be doing other stories on that, or we did a story before that, maybe you missed, or just try to give a little quick context. And, 80% of the time when I respond to people, they'll go, oh, I'm sorry, I was just mad. I love what you guys do, it's great, and you didn't have to bother to respond. But I like to respond, and I think everybody does again, there's those people you don't want to respond to, but that's less, and that interaction in person that you get to hear why people are confused by a certain choice. I think of at the Metro roundtable we did, and XAI was very, very hot right then in terms of, and heated as a story. And Sam Hardiman, who's been covering that for us, was answering questions. And I think he and I both kind of tried to say at one point, you have to understand, Sam's not here to give you Sam's opinion of XAI. Sam's here talking about how we cover as best and as objectively as we can. Yeah. We're not here to say XAI is good or bad. We will quote people who say XAI is good or bad. And that was a great point of conversation. And that's true of everything, of the schools, of Marie Fagan's, of, restaurant opening and restaurant closing, et cetera. again, like I said, there's points where we get into opinion. We try to clearly label it as that. But that part of the conversation that we hope more people are a part of, as we go forward in person, or they can just email me, is great. Let me take a second here and remind everyone, you are listening to The Sidebar. It's a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. I'm talking to Sarah Leach, our head of development today. Merry Christmas if you're listening to us on WYXR on Christmas Day, or I hope you had a good Christmas, hope you had a great holiday. The Sidebar airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. It's not just a radio show, though. It's one of many podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including our morning podcast, the AM DM, with Mary Casciola, our editorial director, and Natalie Van Gundy, who does all the news and puts all of our podcasts together. We also have the Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Drew Hill and Chris Harrington, and our food podcast, Soundbites, hosted by Holly Whitfield, that airs on WYXR every Thursday at 11. We also host the podcast version of Behind the Headlines, the TV show we produce with the folks at WKNO every week. All of our podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get the WYXR shows, that's Soundbites and Sidebar, and all the WYXR shows by all the DJs, both the music shows and the talk shows. You can get those at WYXR.org or the WYXR app. WYXR also nonprofit, listener-supported radio, so do consider becoming a member to support them or do a one-off donation. You can do that on the site or on the app. And again, as we were saying at the top, if you're not a paid subscriber to the Daily Memphian, we do hope you'll become one, or that you will consider donating to support what we do. Coming up soon on The Sidebar, it'll be in the new year, right, Natalie? Yes, it'll be Brantley Elsie, local artist who has a big exhibition at Crosstown right now that closes, I think, towards the end of January. So we'll get to talk to Brantley before that closes, and hopefully you'll be able to see that. We also have the new CEO of the Baron von Upperbean experience. That's the big thing that Christopher Reyes and other artists and creative folks have been building down on Mud Island in the old, what was it, the River Museum? Is that what it used to be called? Something like that. So we'll get to talk to her. That's coming up in January. Recently we had Lauren Reedy, the documentarian, and now it was written a book. She was on the show. LaKenna from Merit Academy, a really cool charter school, and a whole lot of other shows on the Sidebar this year that you can get wherever you get your podcasts. On Behind the Headlines this week, we had a conversation with some immigrant advocates about what they kind of see happening with ICE and the federal task force and all of that. And we have a roundtable coming up next week with at least Bill Dries and Laura Testino talking about some of the biggest stories of this past year and some of the things they'll be looking forward to, whether they like it or not, in the coming year. And recent shows over the past months include a show on food bank community services, MIFA, all the kinds of things that they struggle with in this time of year. We had Mayor Lee Harris, County Mayor, on. We had Justin Pearson. We had Steve Cohen, Roderick Richmond. A whole lot of great shows. You can get all those at Daily Memphian. You can get them where you get your podcasts. You can go to WKNO.org. I mentioned our seminars. We had the CRE, Commercial Real Estate Seminar recently, which is really not just about real estate. It's about sort of economic development in the city. Paul Young keynoted that, or did a Q&A really with me. That video's on the Daily Memphian site. Search for CRE seminar or go to YouTube and look for the video. You can it was a great conversation with him and then with a bunch of business folks. And I mentioned Women in Business. Our Women in Business seminar will be the first business seminar of the year. That'll be February 26th at 3:30 at the Botanic Garden. You should be able to go to Eventbrite and either bookmark it or just make a note of, I'm not sure tickets are on sale yet. But again, we're still here with Sarah Leach, head of development and fundraising for Daily Memphian. So year plus, 13 months, 14 months now. Biggest surprises for you? You were our first ever full-time. We had some contract help on development. We never had a full-time development person. And you'd been in fundraising, development, marketing, all those kinds of things at various with churches and all kinds of different companies.
History, maybe? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Your biggest surprises, because this is weird. What we do, I mean, you can go ahead and say it, because we've talked about this.
No,
it's I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you like what we do.
Yeah.
But the way this business works is strange.
Yeah. So there are a couple of unique aspects of running or working in a news organization. And then there are a couple of extra unique aspects in the type of nonprofit that a journalism organization is, if you will. So for me, I would say it my job immediately prior to this was actually in a public relations agency, but I was not one of the client services team. I was on the business side supporting them. And it was quite similar to that in that I learned I'm not the talent, I'm the person supporting the talent so that they can do what they do better, right? So in that way, coming into this organization felt very familiar to me, and I've gone into roles like that kind of throughout my career. I'm not the social worker. I'm not the teacher, but I want to help those people do what they do better. Yeah. So this fit a perfect model for me to understand, okay, what I'm doing is I'm raising money. I'm telling the story of the journalists that are doing the work day in and day out so that we can have, so that we can have the funds to do what we want to do and what they're good at doing. So in that way, it was familiar to me. But journalism in and of itself, I mean, I think it's the editorial standards of our team. That was something that was really unique to me, that the business side and the editorial side of running a news organization have some key separations that allow the journalists to do their work with confidence and not have any perception or any reality of being influenced by the business side of things. Whether it's in our model, it's the donors, or and advertisers in our model as well. But in a for-profit model, it's not being influenced by the advertisers. So that just learning kind of about that firewall. That was a unique thing. And then as far as nonprofits go. We're so used to, as a society, nonprofits that are looking to change something about the world, right? Your social mission, if you're a school, is to educate more kids. If it's a food pantry, it's to feed hungry people in your city, maybe even eliminate hunger in your city. But for us, it's about information. We're not trying to influence anyone to do any one particular thing other than simply get informed. Whatever it is that you as a citizen want to learn about, whether it's an upcoming election, whether it's new businesses opening in your neighborhood, whether it's decisions that your elected officials are making, whether it's sports scores, right? We are simply here to tell you the stories of what's happening in your city around you so that you are an informed Memphian, that you're an informed resident of Shelby County or of the Mid-South. So for me, that took a little while. Yeah. We had some lovely conversations about that. We actually had one at one of our roundtables with a donor who asked a question, the same question that I came with. Aren't we trying to make a better Memphis or economically thriving Memphis or insert whatever adjectives you want to? We are simply trying to make an informed Memphis, and it's up to the residents of our community who read the paper then to do with that information what you want. You can learn from us that an election is coming up, and you can learn from us who your candidates are, but it's your choice whether then to choose to vote or to choose not to vote, and to choose to vote for this person or that person or completely abstain or do a write-in candidate or whatever you want. But we're not going to endorse any political candidate. We're not trying to turn out the vote. We're not doing the same sort of social change work that many nonprofits are.
With the exception of opinion, which is not a huge part of what we do. But we have some opinion that gets into these things of advocating for things or advocating, not so much for candidates, because that gets complicated. There's a little bit of that happens, but advocates for a mission around homelessness or a mission around early childhood education or something like that. But again, that's a small part. That's not the core of what we do. And it absolutely can be maddening for people.
Yes.
Because we live in this world I was saying earlier where so much media has an inherent bias or an inherent, mission or point of view. And again, that can be just fine. But what happens sometimes is, and more, it seems in my experience, is when we don't have a take, when we write about something going on at the schools and don't conclude that it's good or bad, people who think it's good think we're concluding it's bad. People who think what the schools are doing are bad conclude that we think it's good because we don't express our opinion. And there's this kind of way in which people read and listen and watch news with a level of anger and hostility, especially on a national level.
Bias and their assumptions they're bringing.
If you don't say you agree with me, then you must disagree with me.
Yeah.
And that's really not what we do 98, in the non-opinion stuff we put out there, which is 95% of what we do. And that's an interesting dynamic and can be frustrating.
Yeah. For me, I think it's really exciting, and it's almost countercultural at this point in our country to be a journalism outlet that is truly committed to our best effort to be balanced and unbiased. And for me, that's part of why I love this job, is how can I tell that story to more people in an age when so many of us are frustrated by just the barrage of cable news and social media and people's opinions and people trying to tell us what's good and bad and what to think.
It is interesting. I mean, because if you
different.
I've interviewed a gazillion nonprofit leaders over the years, and you get somebody who runs, a homeless organization or a food bank, and part of their mission is to try to end homelessness or try to end, this thing they want to put themselves out of existence or something. And early childhood poverty, whatever it is that nonprofit, and it is a weird thing that we don't have that. We do have a thing though that I always like to highlight to people that is not exceptional. It is not always common in especially local news, is that, and it's in the mission statement, it was a very big part of the founding of this place, is that we wouldn't hesitate to celebrate good things, which seems obvious, and I get people from why didn't you write that story about this great thing that happened? Well, more often than not, it's because even though we have 40 journalists, we don't have enough journalists. It's not a choice that we didn't want to highlight. It's just we couldn't get to that one. We could get to this other stuff. But that choice, just to highlight positive things, can drive journalists nuts. And we have a great team who aren't driven nuts by that. But when I'm at conferences and other places, and maybe somebody looks at the site and they're like, you have a player of the week in high school. Whoa. That's just fans voting? And it's this kid, and he gets, that's all we do. That kind of celebration of good things is unfortunately doesn't happen enough, especially in local news. And so I think, while we don't have this mission of us explicit outcomes, that's been a big part of it. Minute left. What did we miss? Anything? People can donate at dailymemphian.com/donate.
We still need donations by year end. We're making a push. You're hearing this, I hope, sometime around the 25th. And from the 26th through the 31st, you will be hearing from us in your inbox and on your social media and hopefully in your podcast, in your earbuds. We need contributions through the end of the year, and we want you to join on as a donor to help us reach more Memphians with the high-quality news that our team produces.
Yep. All right. Sarah Leach, thank you very much. Thank you all for listening this past year. Again, get past episodes of the shows, all the different interviews we did. How many shows did we do this year? Maybe 40, 45? We did a lot of, I'm looking at Natalie. Natalie says too many. She's very tired. We're back, but we're in our new studio, and it's going to be really exciting. Next year, we'll have video, big tease of all the podcasts here in the studio. We're expanding our business coverage. There's other stuff I probably should have taken a moment to highlight, but thanks very much for listening all year. New shows coming up soon. And if you missed any of this show, you can get the full episode at WYXR, Daily Memphian, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much. Happy New Year. And we'll see you in 2026.